Desai. I'm Senior Vice President at Cybersecurity, NuSummit company. And we have Rakesh Mukherjee from Microsoft. Today we'll be discussing about how to do successful transition from legacy SIEM to cloud native SIEM by using Microsoft Sentinel. The agenda for this session is, while we are discussing about legacy system to transition to cloud SIEM, what are the typical challenges? When we decide for the cloud native SIEM, why we should choose right cloud native SIEM source solution? What are the parameters we should apply? How much flexibility it gives around the integration, migration, automation, AI-enabled capabilities, and which are the migration strategy we need to think very passionately during this entire journey. So this is the agenda for today's session. So whenever we are talking about legacy systems, so it comes with, say, couple of systems which has been installed in late 70s. For example, systems in manufacturing, systems in automotive, where all the SCADA, PLCs, OT systems are running since ages. And now, whenever we are talking with these CIOs, CTOs of these companies, they are sharing their transformation agenda. They are successfully transforming all the legacy systems, few platforms on the cloud. And there are so many systems which we are seeing in this industry where a lot of automation as well as a lot of data has been processing successfully across the plants, across the technologies. Similarly, we are seeing a lot of transformations in healthcare industry. So I'll give one example. There are a couple of companies, those are providing smaller healthcare devices. These are the IoT enabled healthcare devices, which you can keep it in your pocket and it can read all the ECGs, all the health related data, and it is connected with nearby hospitals. If there is any abnormality in these health readings, it can be notified to hospitals, and nearby hospitals can advise you what are the next steps. They will help you to get proper medical treatment. And all these platforms has been moved on the cloud successfully. Across the US, Europe, Middle East, and India APAC, we are seeing a lot of digital transformation around BFSI and fintech. Payment systems on the devices, payment system from the mobiles. Then there are so many fintech or BFSI apps where you can transfer money within seconds. And most of these platforms are SaaS-based platforms or has been functional on the hyperscalers. Similarly, we are seeing so many success stories around telecom. So many 5G applications. There are so many OSS-based systems which were running on the mainframe or legacy system has been transferred on the cloud platforms. Another good point which we are seeing across the oil and gas industries, so many platforms which are now integrated with OT devices. There are so many industrial IoT platforms has been launched successfully, and a couple of these platforms are integrated with clouds also. So if there are 85 plus plants across the globe, and if we are able to manage that centrally from cloud, that is a wonderful thing from the administrative perspective. So from the industry perspective, cloud adoption is successful now and it is getting a lot of attraction from the industry. So whenever we are talking about the cloud transformations or adoption of these cloud technologies, platforms, apps, so there are certain challenges. If you speak with any CIOs, CISOs or CTOs, they will broadly tell, so considerately there are a couple of issues from the legacy systems data migration to cloud. Now there is always big confusion around whether we should go for the cloud native solutions or external solutions. So a couple of solutions are there for the firewall. So whether we should use Microsoft native firewalls, whether we should use Microsoft native security solutions, or we should go for the external solutions. So cost optimization is another challenge people are not able to deny. And second and important aspect is about governance around these external or say native controls. What is the best security governance which I can apply? Which are the best security framework we can comply? How I can maintain data security and privacy across my ecosystem, whether it is cloud infrastructure, cloud data, which is in resident as well as in transit, as well as cloud application security. Couple of places we are seeing there are multiple hyperscalers, there are multiple omni cloud environments, which need to be coexist with on-premise assets as well. There are multiple organizations where we are seeing Microsoft as well as Google plus Amazon clouds are there. At certain places we are seeing Oracle also. Along with these platforms, there are on-premise assets as well, which needs to be in system. So how we can adopt cloud along with all these ecosystem components? While we are doing this cloud adoption, how we can maintain data availability, ownership, and cultural adoption. So few years back, whenever we used to talk with CIOs, they used to tell us like, see, we are good to go ahead with cloud. From the technology team perspective, they are very happy, they are excited to go for the cloud. But major challenge from the non-IT or support functions are like, they always say whether my data control will be there. Is somebody watching my data? Is somebody having access to that data? How secure is that data? Whether that data is stored in my country, whether it is compliant for all the data regulators. So those kind of questions we used to get from the cultural perspective. So broadly, these are the 6 challenges we see from the cloud adoption perspective. And how to overcome this? So there are a couple of trends which we are seeing this recently. So one is like say people used to do all the security incidents and logging monitoring through legacy system or on-premise platforms. That shift has been changed to cloud native. So if you say last 18 to 24 months, we are seeing so many companies are transforming their on-premise SIEM monitoring solutions to cloud native, which are AI enabled. And it is at very large scale. So it can give you scale, it can give you availability, then compliance. So that is one of the good part happening with the cloud native SIEM adoption. Another point is like say we used to see so many endpoint security devices, servers, desktop. So it was like say on-prem models were there for the endpoint devices, servers, desktop. It was very tedious job to manage security on those endpoint devices. Now there are so many technology components coming on the cloud where AI intelligent automation is there for the endpoint security. Similarly, for the SIEM monitoring processes were there, deployment was there, security orchestration, automation responses were there, which has got into XDR now. So cloud workload protection, cloud application security, data security components, that shift is there. Another area which is like people used to do compliance assessment or audits on periodic basis. Once in a quarter or biannual basis, they used to do compliance. And that was very restricted. Like say PCI DSS or if HIPAA is applicable for the HIPAA component. If only IT assets used to be compliant. So that portion people used to do for particular component. Now, by using cloud technologies, CSPM, CWPP, we are able to do continuous compliances. And good part is like whenever we are doing continuous compliances and monitoring, we can do risk assessment as well as remediation part also, which is the good point. So by using cloud native solutions as well as you can integrate external solutions also, we can achieve continuous compliance. Beauty here is like it can support multiple compliances across the globe, all the regulatory compliance checkpoints which we can get it here. And last and very, very important component in cybersecurity is about how to do identity management. So there were heavily loaded large identity management programs were running or managed globally. Now it is very easier to do cloud-based identity management. So there are so many technology components coming across from the cloud platforms SaaS solutions where we can utilize all these identity. So here it is like the industry is adopting cloud technology and replacing the older technology stack. So when we are talking about this, what are the typical challenges which we see from this SIEM perspective? So I have not taken all 5-6 components from the trends. We will be discussing about legacy SIEM systems. So legacy SIEMs were expensive, slow. If you want to run threat hunting queries on the legacy SIEM, it takes a lot of time. Multiple times we are saying that it is ineffective in recent times where attacks are advanced. There are multiple cloud-based attacks. There are multiple attacks like a ransomware kind of thing. There are AI-enabled attacks also. So many things which we are getting in the attack ecosystem, and legacy systems are not able to detect it. Now, whenever we are seeing legacy SIEMs, another challenge general security teams faces about fatigue. So when you are using any intelligent or new age SIEM solution, a lot of automation helps them to detect as well as act on particular alert or incident. Now that point, if you see in legacy system, it was like insufficient or inefficient threat detection responses were there. It was very limited speed to detect and respond on that. And multiple times it was very, very difficult to integrate many solutions. So if you go back 3-4 years back, there were legacy SIEM systems. And if you compare all 4 years now, there are so many external security solutions, so many device integration, parsers, everything you need to integrate. And it is very, very difficult for the legacy SIEMs. For the Microsoft Sentinel or Cloud SIEM, it is very easier to integrate these new age devices, new age solutions through APIs and built-in connectors. So these are the few challenges which we see from the legacy SIEM. Now, when you decide to go for the cloud, so now from the decision perspective, we thought like say legacy SIEMs are having issues, let's go for the cloud. So whenever you are opting for the cloud, you need to check what are the typical risks in the cloud ecosystem. First risk is insecure APIs. So whenever you are transferring any data or whenever you are exchanging any data with third party, there are certain APIs which you are in use. If these APIs are not secure and your data exchange is like say with injected code or if there are any malicious code, that is very risky. Multiple times we are seeing one big challenge is about how many workloads are there in system. Entire visibility about workloads, that is very, very big concern. So asset management, asset discovery, and managing all these cloud workloads or cloud assets, that is one challenge. Another part is having identity or access control or zero trust is another risk which we need to manage in cloud. Couple of places from the compliances part. So from the data security compliance, then there are a couple of regulatory compliances which we need to check here. So most of the systems, most of the native controls comes with configurations. You need to ensure that all the configurations are made properly, all the compliances, all the checks you need to follow as per the frameworks. Many risks which has happened in past or many attacks which we witnessed in past are because of the misconfiguration, which led to data breach. So there are multiple. So if you check on the cloud misconfiguration data breach, you will see thousands of attacks which led for the large set of data. And another big challenge is about DDoS. So whenever we are thinking about few key risks in the cloud, so I would say these are the broad categories. Now, how to fix this? So typically, you need to lay out one cloud security strategy. So broadly, it should control, build, and manage part. So whenever you are talking about build, you should think about what are the native controls you will get in place. First strategy, I would say, effective usage of native controls. You need to have strong cloud foundation security controls, which will combine of say Microsoft Sentinel, Security Center, Keyword, Microsoft Defender, all the native controls which we'll have. Apart from this, if we feel like we need to have external solutions also, which we need to integrate. That part also you need to do proper secure design and integrate that. Then second and most important point is, let's say, which security framework you will be gathering. So from the Microsoft perspective, there is enterprise architecture reference diagram, which you can take as a reference document, design and implement all the cloud security controls using this framework. Apart from this, you can also leverage NIST's Cloud Computing Standards Roadmap. It is one of the best documents, I would say, where all the detailed controls, its framework standards has been given in detail. You can leverage that and implement all the native controls. Another important point is about zero trust. Whenever we are talking about identity management and access control, we need to implement strong controls around identity management. We need to have proper access control in the cloud ecosystem, whether it is entry point for the platform, whether it is entry point for the devices, or even for the apps. If there are any B2B applications, there might be single sign-on or say privileged access management. We need to implement that. Fourth important strategy is about data security. How we can use strong data security, native controls, and cryptography in entire ecosystem. So wherever it is possible, you use keyword. If you are using managed services, then use HSM. So multiple HSM providers are there on the cloud platform, which you can use to exchange your keys. The last and important aspect is about compliance monitoring and threat management. So here, like say, I gave you example for the cloud compliance. So you can use CISSP controls to have continuous monitoring and assessment part. So one good point here is like, so another challenge I would say is like say, there are so many cloud assets are getting integrated and couple of assets also getting offboarded also. So we need to have proper asset management. We need to continuously monitor which devices are getting onboarded, which devices are getting offboarded. And while we are onboarding any devices, we need to have security assessment of these devices on periodic basis. So this is a typical SOP we need to follow for the cloud, secure cloud ecosystem. If there are any devices are getting onboarded, all the basic cloud security controls, framework, foundation should be there, and it should be in 24/7 monitoring system part, so that it will give all the results from the scanning. It will also help us for the compliance status, whether all these assets are compliant for the particular regulatory requirements. And last and very, very important aspect is about remediation part. So if you can configure or if you can utilize your cloud solutions to have auto remediation, that's wonderful thing. So that is one strategy you need to apply. So now we discussed about what are the challenges around legacy SIEM systems, why we should go for the cloud. If we are opting for the cloud, what are the key risks? Then what will be the strategy to have solid foundation? Now, whenever we are thinking about this, now we came to conclusion like we should go for the cloud native SIEM and so. Now, whenever we are thinking about native, so there are so many cloud solutions. Then why cloud and why Microsoft? So a couple of things which comes in mind is like say first point is like say it gives you cost benefit. So there are like say couple of results like say IDG research did survey for 300 IT security leaders and it got resulted into 40% staffing cost got reduced. This is a huge. Then approximately 40% OPEX as well as 34% CAPEX has been reduced. Whenever you are using Microsoft Sentinel and source solutions, that is really helping us from the cost perspective. Another benefit from the compliances. Centralized compliance reporting and consolidated dashboards for most of the compliance requirements, whether it is HIPAA, whether it is PCI DSS, or whether it is device specific, you have benefits of putting it as per your organization structure. You can put compliance checks according to that. Another point is like performance. So we have seen or we discussed about whenever we are using legacy systems, there is a fatigue. So whenever we are using cloud SIEM, at that time faster response times, better usage of SIEM analyst experience, gets counted while you are using Cloud SIEM. Lot of automation you can use by using PI/ML capabilities in Microsoft Sentinel, use cases, playbooks, workbook automation you can use. There are so many repositories, I would say, from the threat hunting, threat intelligence. Microsoft provides the Sentinel part. And cloud gives different benefit for the scale than application, faster application implementation. Additionally, one major benefit is like there is no hardware requirement as it is hosted on the cloud, no extra admin or management cost for the management of hardware or management of all this console. So this is the reason we should go for the cloud native SIEM and source solution. So I'll pass this to Rakesh now. He will explain us how Microsoft Sentinel helped us to build successful next-gen cloud SIEM and source solution, and what is the strategy for the migration part. Rakesh, over to you.
Suhas, thanks, and thanks for a nice introduction. So just let me introduce myself. So my name is Rakesh Mukherjee. I'm a cloud solution architect at Microsoft, and I work very closely with Suhas and team, which is basically Ojas, right? So with that, let me go through the slides. Now, before I start this, I'm sure you know that Sentinel is industry's first cloud-native SIEM, SOAR, and UEBA solution, right? So Sentinel, of course, is not only an analytics platform which offers the SIEM functionality, but on top of that, we have user entity behavior analytics and security orchestration, automation, and response built into the product, right? And Sentinel supports hybrid multi-cloud environment. So that means as a customer, you must have your on-premise data sources. You will have, of course, you will have your Azure data sources. You will have AWS, you will have GCP, and Sentinel can actually collect signals or logs all across your IT landscape, right? And this slide is basically showcasing the trust that we have received from the customer. As you see, as of today, more than 25,000 customers have adopted Sentinel across the globe, right? Innovation is obviously what we actually do very frequently, and I'm sure you know that the security co-pilot, which is basically a generative AI solution which sits on top of Sentinel and which actually offers more AI capability with Sentinel integration, right? And of course, we have received a lot of industry recognition. Suhas, if you move to the next slide. So Sentinel was born in cloud in 2019, and this report is actually, this is showing Gartner Magic Quadrant report, where you can see Microsoft or Sentinel is in the leader quadrant, right? And I think it's actually a huge achievement because this is second consecutive times we being the leader in Gartner Magic Quadrant, and not only Gartner, we have received recognition from many other analysts across the world, right? Next slide, Suhas. Yeah, now before I go deeper in the, so what I planned actually in this session, I will explain some of the important features that we have in Sentinel. But before I go deeper in Sentinel features, I wanted to explain this, which is basically what we call unified SOC platform, right? So whenever we are speaking to our customers, what we are experiencing that at one hand, the customers are facing huge challenges because they are seeing huge number of incidents, and most of the incidents are very high severity incidents because the attackers are using a lot of sophisticated tool to launch an attacks, right? So that means the incident investigation is obviously taking time because it's more and more high severity incidents. And at the same point of time, the security team is also facing a challenge, which is basically they are using multiple tools, right? So there is a survey, and the result is showing that even a mid-sized organization is using more than 20 different tools from 30 different vendors, right? Which is basically creating a very complex tooling architecture. When the security team is actually investigating an incident, they may need to open multiple consoles find it out, right? To remediate the things. And when you are actually when you need to open multiple consoles, that basically delays your incident investigation time, right? So that means you are, or we are actually allowing the attacker to stay to spend longer time in our environment, which is not very good, right? So that is where the unified SOC platform we introduced maybe 6 months back. So this is basically, as you see, one single console having all the mandatory SOC solutions stitched together, can be accessible from one single console, right? So if I go from the bottom, threat intelligence is one of the key components for any SOC environment, right? Then on top of that, we have exposure management, which is basically part of CSPM to identify exposure on your assets, to identify misconfigurations. Then obviously cloud security, which is basically DevSecOps platform. Then we have the XDR, which is Microsoft 365 Defender. Then SIEM is the topic of today's discussion, which is obviously Sentinel. And then on top of that, we have Security Copilot, which sits and which teaches all these solutions together. And the outcome is the analyst does not need to open multiple consoles. Instead of that, they are seeing just one unified console when they are investigating an incident, which is obviously reducing the time to response an incident drastically, right? Next slide, Suhas. Yeah, so you will also agree with me that in any SIEM implementation project, the most challenging part is data source integration, right? And this is just a snippet of what all data connectors that we have out of the box. As you see, it is, as of today, it is showing 350 out of the box data connectors that we have available at this point of time in Sentinel, which is actually very good, because more data connector, more out of the box data connector that you have, the better implementation it will do, right? Now, not only the out of the box data connector, we have a very easy, comfortable and convenient way to create your custom data connector as well, because obviously you as a customer will have a lot of custom applications, and which are very critical for Sentinel, right? For log ingestion purpose. And we have something called CCP, which is codeless connector platform. So it's, as I said, it's actually very comfortable, convenient and easy way to develop your own custom connector and ingest those logs from your custom data connector. So this is what we have in Sentinel with 350 plus out of the box data connector, obviously to protect your entire IT landscape. Next slide, Suhas. Yeah, now how do we scale security coverage? So as you see, expand visibility while managing cost. And this is actually very important, because so first of all, the ingestion should be based on your use case, right? So you have to always think that if this data source is very critical, it really has a lot of valid use case, then only I will ingest that data, right? But the problem is when we are ingesting, as a customer, when you are ingesting logs or signal to Sentinel, there are two things, two licensing parameters that are available in market, right? One is EPS, which is event per second, and then one is log volume. So that means the more data that you ingest to Sentinel or to any SIEM, you will end up paying more money, right? And that is where the trick is, how intelligently, what is the smartest way to ingest the logs, and as well as to check your cost, right? So that you are not missing any critical things, and at the same point of time, you are able to manage the cost of your ingestion, right? The ingestion cost, how would you do that? And that is where we have introduced tiered storage architecture, which is something that I will speak in the next slide as well, which is actually very helpful. Then obviously we have a feature, something called SOC optimization. So SOC optimization, it uses ML-based algorithm to identify the idle log sources, the unutilized log sources, and then it will directly recommend you that, hey, you have these log sources, but they do not have any use case, or you are not utilizing the specific log. So either you create some use case so as to utilize these logs, or you change the logs to a different tier storage where you can save some cost, right? So this is also a great feature available in Sentinel. So next slide. Yeah, so as I speak, the tiered storage architecture, and as you see, there are three things, three tiered, right? One is analytics log. So by default, whatever we are ingesting to Sentinel, they qualify as analytics log. Now with analytics log with Sentinel license, you will get 90 days online retention at free of cost. Okay. And then as you see in the bullets in analytics log box, that all features are supported at no extra cost. So that means when you are qualifying some log sources as analytics log, you are getting full SIEM functionality. Those logs will be leveraged for correlation purpose. You will get alert out of those logs, right? Then what is auxiliary log? Auxiliary log is like the customers will have very high volume of logs, but they have either very low security value or no security value, right? But still you want to ingest that logs, maybe that can be considered your secondary log sources to support your incident investigation process, and they can be qualified as auxiliary log, right? So you can do threat hunting, you can generate reports from your auxiliary log, but those logs cannot be utilized for your correlation purpose like analytics log, right? And as you see, the pricing is also there. Of course, these are list price, but the difference is huge. So ingestion cost per GB for analytics log is this, and for auxiliary log, it is very, very less in comparison to analytics logs, right? This is actually a very huge utility. This is actually a very huge feature, and many of our customers are using auxiliary log. So you may have a question, so what are the log sources that can be qualified as auxiliary log, right? So straightforward, what I can suggest, like cloud storage log, cloud container log, netflow log, something like VPC log. So they are very high in volume, but they do not have a lot of security value, right? So instead of ingesting those log sources as analytics log and incur high cost, it is always good to ingest those log sources as auxiliary log, and then you can still have the ability to threat hunting, reporting. You can still use that log as your secondary log sources, those logs as your secondary logs in your incident investigation process, right? And obviously it will also fulfill your compliance requirement. Now finally, the long-term retention, which is what we call some like offline retention, right? And we have a different tier, storage tier for offline retention. As you see, the pricing is also very less, and it depends on your requirement. So 12 years it is written here for analytics log and auxiliary log, but actually if we move this to Azure blob storage, we can even retain your logs for 100 years, right? So and this is also a very easy way to switch your offline data to different storage tier. And one advantage with Sentinel is that even without restoring the data from your from your long-term retention tier, you can still search that data from Sentinel, right? So you do not need to restore the data first. You can search, and then if you want, then only you will restore the data. So this is what we call tiered storage, and this is a great feature in Sentinel. Suhas, next slide. Yeah, so net, what I should say, what I wanted to say here is that with Sentinel, what are we getting? So as I said, with your Sentinel license, you have the SOAR component bundled with it, which is the automation part of it. Then you have UBA, which is user entity behavior analytics. Then you are also getting Microsoft Threat Intelligence feed, right? TI is also bundled with Sentinel, and obviously TI is a huge requirement. And I am sure you will also agree with me that Microsoft is one of the largest technology company in the globe, right? So, and because of that, we basically per day we analyze more than 78 trillion signals, right? And from that signals we try to identify the non-malicious IP address, the non-malicious URL, file hash, domain name, and that we ingest to all our security products. And obviously we have it in with Sentinel as well, right? So TI is very important, and it is also bundled with Sentinel. Unparalleled threat detection and out of the box use cases. Suhas briefly touched this point in his slides, which is basically we have more than 400 out-of-the-box analytics rule, combining the user entity behavioral analytics rule to identify any deviations, and then it will automatically create alerts, right? It leverages the AI/ML algorithm to identify unknown attacks. So these are actually some secret recipes in Sentinel. Then obviously with Copilot, which sits on top of Sentinel, can reduce your incident investigation process with LLM and AI-based learning, right? So this is what we have in Security Copilot, and that sits on top of Sentinel. And this is also a mandatory requirement for your AI-based next generation SOC kind of environment. Next slide, Suhas. Yeah, I think if you want to take it, Suhas, and then.
Yep. So when we are talking about we are adopting Microsoft Sentinel and we want to migrate legacy SIEM. So first challenge we see is like say data migration challenge. So like say there are like say 2 GB of the data which is getting processed per, and we need to migrate that data without losing a single byte. So that is one challenge which we are seeing in large migration. Second part is like say change management. So like say whether we can have all the processes, train new people, or train entire ecosystem, because what is happening, the legacy system, if there are certain processes are happening, then entire change management for the Microsoft Sentinel, getting all the people trained on that, how dashboarding happens, how threat hunting happens, then how we can build new playbooks. So those things also we need to have properly manage it. Then another part is like say integration issue. So what we have seen in large migration, if it is not handled properly, it causes like say important devices are not getting integrated properly. Many third-party security solutions, many critical log sources from the devices, system servers are not getting properly integrated. And last and a very important, there is always confusion like say, if I'm migrating to Microsoft Sentinel and XYZ is my legacy SIEM, can I keep both? And how long I need to keep both? Because I can't pay license cost for both for longer time. So what is the decision I need to take? Like say, first say XYZ, a legacy system, I can build or migrate that completely. There is a facility, Rakesh will tell that. So there is a facility feature available in Microsoft Sentinel where you can migrate entire data. That is easiest way. But there are some legacy SIM solutions which we have seen in past where it is very difficult to migrate all the data. It is a tedious process. So for that you need to go phase wise up manner and do coexistence for at least 90 days or 180 days. Once you get fully migrated on the Microsoft Sentinel, then you can do sunset for legacy SIM. So these are the 4 challenges, and in subsequent slides, Rakesh will tell how we can fix all these 4 challenges in Microsoft Sentinel. Rakesh.
It was, yeah, absolutely. You actually touched the right point. And uh, while we migrate from on-prem or from a different SIEM, it is always suggested that we should always go with side-by-side architecture. So that means you have to plan it accordingly. Like maybe in next 6 months, your existing SIEM license will expire, and you have to plan by the time that you want to move to a next gen SIEM, and then both the SIEMs need to be running in parallel for at least 90 days, so that you can slowly migrate the log sources from the existing to Sentinel, right? Side-by-side architecture is absolutely what we always suggest, and that is how we do this, right? Suhas, next slide. Yeah, now when we are migrating data, when we are migrating SIEM, we should cover these 4 things. We should keep these 4 things in mind, right? One is migrating data. And we need to think, do I need to ingest this specific signal or specific logs, right? This is very important. Previously also I said ingestion should be your use case based approach, right? If you have a use case, then ingest. If you do not have a use case, don't ingest, right? So you have to decide, do I really need to ingest the specific logs to the new SIEM that I am migrating to, right? So this is the first thing. Next is migrating detection rules, right? So obviously, when you are migrating from your existing to Sentinel, uh, something which will come first in your mind, that what about my use cases, right? How do I migrate my existing use cases? So the suggestion is, you should never try to migrate use case by use case. Okay, rather try to understand. It may happen that those use cases are already available within Sentinel out of the box rules, right? So the suggestion is, you try to understand what your previous use case is, and if that is possible with out of the box use case that is available in Sentinel, right? At least 60% of the times I have seen that you will experience that use case is already there in Sentinel. So you may not need to manually migrate each and every use cases. Okay. The third item is migrating automation. Automation is basically playbooks. Here you have to check what all playbooks that you have in your existing SIEM, and then in Sentinel we use something called logic app, right? Which is actually which is almost no code, low code way of creating your playbooks, right? And we have out of the box 150 plus playbooks available for integrating with different third-party products, right? So you have to study your existing automation use cases, and then you need to plan how you will configure those use cases in Sentinel, right? So that is how you will do the migration for your automation use case. And migrating analytics. Migrating analytics is more or less similar to your detection rules. And as I said, Sentinel has 400 plus built-in detection rules along with EVBA, right? So you really need to check that if the rule that your existing SIEM has, that may already be covered in Sentinel, right? Now, having said that, I just wanted to highlight, I am not sure if you are able to see, there is a snippet at the bottom of the slide, which is Microsoft Sentinel console. The snippet is taken, yes, correct, Suhas, thanks, it is now visible. So this snippet is actually taken from Sentinel console and from Content Hub. And as you see, there is a feature available, which is SIEM migration. So what is SIEM migration? So as of today, we have a very good migration story if your existing SIEM is Splunk, right? So this SIEM migration tool, once you click on there, it is basically a step-by-step guide where you will actually export your Splunk analytics rule beforehand from your Splunk console. You will export in JSON format, and then you will upload that JSON formatted file in this SIEM migration feature, which is available in Sentinel, right? Now, once you upload that JSON format, which is basically holding all the Splunk analytics rule, it will automatically be migrated to Sentinel. And as I said, we have this feature available only for Splunk to Sentinel migration as of today, but in future, we are planning for such more migrations from all the legacy SIEM tools, right? Yeah, I think this is what, do we have a next slide, Suhas? Yeah, I think now time for question and answer. Do we have any question? Okay, so let me take this first. Who takes ownership of log retention? Okay, the first question by Selvaraj, right? So log retention, if you remember the slide that I was showing, I hope you are pointing to offline retention, right? So as per your requirement, if you say that I want to retain my offline or my archival tier to be 9 months or 12 years or 20 years. So you will let us know how long do you want to retain, and then Sentinel has the feature where you will actually, this is basically a different storage tier where the logs will be retained after they expire the online retention. So that means if today is 4th of April, April, May, June. So 5th of June, your first logs will be automatically shifted to archival retention storage tier. That is how it That is how it happens. Can you move data from analytics to auxiliary logs? Definitely, we can do that. So, in Sentinel, we store logs in multiple tables, okay. And these analytics tiers, the storage tier that I explained, which is analytics log, auxiliary log, they are basically table level change. Okay, so at any point of time, you can move your analytics table, you can convert your analytics table to auxiliary table, or auxiliary table to moving back to analytics table. One thing I wanted to highlight here is that auxiliary tier is not only for your high volume of log, it is absolutely a very big use case, but another advantage is that you can create summary rule. Now, what is summary rule? Summary rule is basically aggregating the data. Okay, so that means, say for example, you are ingesting Gscalar log, which is very high volume logs in Sentinel, right? And then you are ingesting your Gscalar log in auxiliary table, and then you create summary rule. Okay, and then you move back your summary rule is basically aggregated data, and then what you will do, you will move the output to analytics table. Okay, so that you can run analytics correlation on top of that data. So that means at one hand, I said that the auxiliary log does not support your correlation rules, right? But then what you can do, you can create summary rules, and the output you move back to analytics tier, and then you run your analytic correlation rules on top of that, right? We have many customers, they are actually using the summary rule in auxiliary tier for correlation purpose of the Gscalar log or some high volume of log. It's basically a good question. In the context of Azure Sentinel's Custo query language, how does the rotational and non-persistent UIDs affect the fidelity score of an incident? Can we eventually via logic app running in a stateless container? Yeah, we can do that. So whatever severity that are coming out of the box, you can obviously modify that. You can create logic app that maybe you have high value asset or high value user, right? So whenever there is an incident from which impacts a high value asset or high value user, then you have a logic app, and that will automatically change the severity of that incident to a high severity incident. It is possible. Will it be able to read the log migrated from different solution? Now, when you say log, we are never suggesting to migrate logs, right? So we are suggesting that you will redirect logs to the to Sentinel. Now, if you say that, what about my archival log, which is there in my existing tool? And that is where we are recommending that you can probably keep both the same at least for 3 months, and then slowly move to here, right? But we have ways to get your offline data as well. That is also possible, but that is not suggested. Okay, you keep both the SIEMs running in parallel, and then you slowly move to the other SIEM. How can we connect legacy OT systems in Microsoft Sentinel? Yeah, I think Suhas touched upon a lot of in a slide on the OT part, so I should also let you know this. And I do not know if you know that Sentinel has a lot of free licensing scheme available, right? Now, when I say free licensing scheme, it is basically when you are ingesting Office 365 log, and Office 365 is not only email, which includes SharePoint, Teams, and Office email logs, right? They are all free. They do not consume your Sentinel license. Your Azure activity log ingestion to Sentinel is free of cost. That does not consume your Sentinel license. And then on top of that, if you are using any Microsoft 365 Defender tools like Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Office 365, Defender for Identity, or Defender for Cloud Apps, that alert when you ingest to Sentinel is also free of cost. Okay. Now, similarly, we have our security solutions for your OT environment. We call it Defender for IoT, right? And which is basically competitive solutions. I'm sure you know Nozomi, which is a Japanese OT security tool, right? So we have competition with Nozomi and all other tools. So Defender for IoT is also a very great tool. And if it happens that you are using Defender for IoT, then the Defender for IoT alert ingestion to Sentinel is also free of cost. And we have many customers, even in India, they are using Sentinel as a single SOC for both their OT, IoT, and IT monitoring, right? This is actually a very good feature. Do we have any other questions? How automation can be achieved in Microsoft Sentinel? I think I covered this more or less in this slide, which is basically Logic App. It's actually a low-code utility to achieve automation. And as I said, we have out of the box 150 plus integrations available with different third-party tools for automation. How AI can be used in detection engineering? Yeah, of course, it is. We use AI ML in UEBA. We use Sentinel. We have something called Fusion, right? Fusion is a it creates a very huge impact because it helps you to identify advanced multi-stage attacks, right? And Fusion is something where we use the AI ML algorithm to identify those advanced multi-stage attack kind of scenarios. Does Sentinel has the capability to integrate and consume logs for homegrown application? Obviously, and it has to be there. And I think I covered it as well. So we can comfortably, conveniently, very easily in custom logs. So we have something called CCP, which is codeless connector platform, which helps you to ingest all your custom applications to Sentinel. And how does it happen? So CCP, if you just do a search in your browser and type codeless connector platform, you will get a lot of information on that. But obviously, within the short period of time, I cannot explain it all. And as I said, we can definitely ingest the custom applications to Sentinel. The latency introduced by cross-regional query propagation in Azure Sentinel. How can the Microsoft Casola parallel logic app can? Actually, there is no latency. Okay, so whenever you are, you will select your Microsoft Sentinel region, you will get all Azure regions across the globe, right? As of now, we have 3 regions available in India: Central India, South India, and West India. But all Azure regions, if I say the cheapest, the most cost-effective Azure region is East US. Okay, so if it happens that you do not have any challenge in transferring your logs to a foreign country, then we always recommend that, or we always suggest that you can use East US region for your Sentinel, and there will absolutely be no delays, no latency that you will feel, right? You will feel as if that East US data center is sitting just beside your office in Madhya Pradesh or in Uttar Pradesh. Okay, there is absolutely no latency. How do you differentiate between security and non-security logs from log sources? It depends. Okay, it is basically it depends on customer to customer. For some customer, maybe firewall log is not that critical, right? So they may say that no, I can actually I can qualify the firewall logs as auxiliary log. But for some customer, it may happen that firewall log is very important. But having said that, I already spoke that some log sources are very clear candidate to be qualified as non-security logs, which is like your cloud container log, cloud storage log, VPC flow log, net flow log. So they are very high volume of logs. But I should not say they are non-security logs. They are security logs, but they do not have a lot of security value. They may have medium security value, right? How does incident response works in Microsoft Sentinel? Obviously, Microsoft Sentinel has a very intuitive case management built into the product, where you can create your incident management workflow, your playbook, your EVBA, everything will be stitched into there, and we can do it very well. How do I create a bomb? It's a very nice question. Yeah, so you have to go to Sentinel pricing portal, which is basically Azure pricing portal. But always remember that before creating a bomb, you need to identify the log volume, right? So we have a lot of calculators available. Even we have Microsoft calculator available. Or just can also share you calculator. So first and foremost, you have to identify the log volume, and then once you have that, then you will create bill of material, right? And for that, again, Aujas will help you. And if you want to do your own research, then please go to Microsoft pricing portal, online pricing portal, and select Sentinel, and then you will get all the options available there. How automation can be achieved in Sentinel? I think this question is a repeat. I already told, which is basically what you use as your logic app. Bill of material.
So, Ananya, you can share one email with our HR team. We'll take it ahead.
Suhas, I think the last question, if you want to, will there be any chance of data loss during migration? No, actually there will be no data loss.
There will be no errors. Yes. There is another question around during the initial setup, especially with the UFI license. It appears to be cost-effective XDR solution. However, over time, as more log sources are onboarded, will the overall cost increase, particularly regarding data downloads of audit and forensic purpose? So most of the time, if it is like say Microsoft logs, then no cost gets increased. But if log sources from other solutions are there, then cost gets little increased. There is one question around automation part. So one point from the Microsoft Sentinel perspective, detection as a code. This is the one new concept Microsoft came up with, where detection engineering with inbuilt automated code work as a detection as a code, and it helps us to recognize some alerts. So there are a couple of cases which we have seen where evidences or say footprints has not left in the ecosystem, and during forensic type we are not able to detect what type of attack it has happened. So it is called as like a no footprints has been left on the system. In such cases, detection as a code or detection engineering in the Microsoft Sentinel helps a lot to get the entire details about how this attack happened, what are the impacts, then how we can recover that. So that is one. And from the automation perspective, I would say SOC workflow automation, that is one of the wonderful feature in Microsoft Sentinel. Second one is like say threat intelligence enrichment that comes very effective with so many threat feeds available in Microsoft Sentinel. That is one area I would say. And say lot of LLMs has been used while building entire Microsoft Sentinel threat hunting and threat detection part. So it helps a lot on the threat detection part. So that is one. Another aspect of Microsoft Sentinel from the automation perspective, MITRE mapping, which we can do effectively in Microsoft Sentinel part. Another piece is like say, I forgot about the IR part, incident response. So remediation is the most of the time difficult part during IR. So getting containment automation of the impacted systems and remediation or building new systems in the faster part, that is one beautiful thing available in the Microsoft stack. Copilot being onboarding with so many features, it helps a lot on the IR as well as automation piece. One point from the OT system, Rakesh, I would like to highlight on that point is like say, OT systems come with various logs as well as signals. So depending on what type of log sources it generates, we can get those integrated in the system. Sometimes a legacy system doesn't give logs in the prescribed format which we can put into Microsoft Sentinel. So like say SCADA or PLCs, sometimes they generate telemetry data also. So we can get what is possible in log format in various like say the text format or log sources formats, but telemetry data also we need to convert that. So that is mostly unstructured data which we can convert into telemetry. So that was one additional from the OT security perspective. I think that's all from our side. If there are any more questions, you can reach out to our marketing team through email. We'll be very happy to connect with you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Rakesh.
Thanks, guys.
And all the audience. It's a wonderful session. Thank you so much for your time.